So, guys, welcome to this episode of the podcast preview. We've got a very special guest, Lewis G, as well as and James. Lewis, how are you?
I'm good, bro. Football's about to start. Team's looking exciting. Season's looking exciting. I'm good. You?
Yeah, we're good. We're not as excited as you are. Obviously, you've been taking all the transfer headlines and deadlines this transfer window. So, just coming up to it, you've signed a hell of a lot of players, splashing the cash that you've had from Hazard and Courtois, and overall it's looking good. So, how are you feeling coming into this season?
Excited. I don't think we've been this excited for a season since maybe 2014, maybe even further back than that. We've made nearly all the additions that we've needed to make to this squad. Our attacking talent looks night and day better than last season. And even last season, we apparently had the third highest goals scored in the league. So chance creation was never really that much of a problem for us. It was just putting the ball in the back of the net. Now we've got a ice cold killer in Timo Werner. Kai Havertz, a generational talent that can play all across the midfield. Hakim Ziyech, whenever he comes back from injury as well, the delivery and the curve on the balls that he brings into the box, I'm so excited to see him play as well. And Thiago Silva as well, just for the defensive organisation that we've been missing in our team for the last 2 seasons. He's going to be a massive addition to the squad. And the age don't even mean anything to him because the guy takes care of his body the same way Ronaldo does. So he can play on for the next 2, 3, 4 years at the top level and still produce consistent performances. Obviously, there's Ben Chilwell as well. You guys know a lot about Ben Chilwell. Me, happy to have him because he's just straight up better than any left back that we have at the time. And Lampard backs him, Ashley Cole backs him. So he is a talent. Obviously, you know what he can bring and you know what he can't bring. But compared to the left backs that we have, he's night and day better. So yeah, I'm excited for the new season.
Yeah, definitely. It looks. I can understand why you're excited coming into this year. I think that over to you, Ant. I think that this season in general for Chelsea is going to look something special, right?
It is if they all gel. Like it could end up being that they don't gel and it sort of looks a bit awkward and broken, or they could gel really well and put like a really serious title challenge together, which is I think more the direction it's probably going to go.
That was, my other question to you, Lewis, as well. Is how well are they looking like they're gelling and they're coming together as a squad? Because obviously bringing in that many world-class players and that, as you were saying, some generational talents as well, how well do you think they're going to gel together and perform in the league? Because not a lot of them have, apart from Ben Chilwell, have that many Premier League experience as well.
Here's the thing. It's really hard to tell because we've only had one pre-season match. And it was against Brighton that we're playing on Monday as well. The first game against Brighton, it really didn't show us much. Neither team really looked that fit. The game was just slow. It was a bit of a drag. I'm not sure about how they're going to gel. I know Kai Havertz and Timo Werner will have a great link-up, and part of the reason why Havertz joined is because he wanted to play club football with Timo Werner. So that I'm not really that worried about. About the team gelling, maybe it might be something to look out for at the first couple games of the season. I know every rival fan has been on our necks recently saying we now have to win the title, we now have to win trophies because of the money that we spent. I don't necessarily think we have to. I think it's about progression. One of my mates said it perfectly. I'd want to look at this season from a points perspective compared to last season. This season, we should be looking for around 80, 85 points, be around that mark to be third place, maybe second place. Go for the title if we have the strength for it. I do think we can compete in the title race, but I'm not sure for how long. But that's one of the main reasons why, because the team might not gel well initially. We might have a bit of a rocky start. We've got Manchester United and Liverpool in our first opening 6 games of the season. Liverpool's the second game of the season. So we can drop points in very early on. So, yeah, it all does depend on how they all link up together. That might be why we don't win the title this season. But that's why I'm not really looking that deep towards it. Because same way, you also got to look at the teams around you. Liverpool could still win the league. Manchester City could still win the league. Right now, I think it's us 3 all locked on for top 3. Only thing I'm not sure about is who finishes where.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one for you guys. So do you think the board shared like the same expectations as you and the club? Because obviously they've invested all the money. Do you think this was kind of your way back into challenging for that top 3 position? Because obviously spending the money was one thing, but with a manager in Frank Lampard as well, could that potentially take you up there? Because you've rightfully so, you've spent the money and it's looked great, but it's put you as a kind of a target for all of the teams as well.
Kind of, but another big reason why we were able to spend this money was the transfer ban. And because of that, we had all the money saved in from last season, and also the way the markets crashed. No one can really compete with us in terms of the money that we have, because everyone else is trying to sell to buy, and everyone else also needs to sell their assets. So we can also kind of name our price a little bit. That's why this season has really been a cheat code for Chelsea. It's been a serious cheat code because the transfer ban came at exactly the right point for us, and no one could have anticipated it. So I don't know if it's a case of pressure. I think the only thing Lampard could do, which is wrong, is for the team to regress. And I don't think the team is going to regress under Frank Lampard. I still think we can finish within the top three. There is going to be a much higher expectation for Frank Lampard than there was last season. I do think he has to win a trophy. I don't think it would cost him his job if he didn't win it, but I do think he has to win a trophy this season. But I think Roman Abramovich has been a lot more patient in recent years with managers. We've always had that hire and fire mentality, but I think it's got a lot weaker since we won the Champions League. Even if you look through the list of managers that we have, Di Matteo only got sacked because he was a little bit in out of his depth, if we're being real about it. Rafa Benitez never got along with the fans. Jose Mourinho was going to be the guy to create that long-term legacy at Chelsea, but then 15-16 happened and everything just fell off a cliff. He got sacked. We brought in Hiddink as a replacement. He just wasn't going to stay long. He only came into Chelsea as a favour for Roman. Conte, again, would have been a long-term dynasty, but he never got along with the board after we won the league. You remember that awful 17-18 window, and we're still only just now recovering from that window. Maurizio Sarri, again, another one that never got along with the fans. Got along well with the board because he never really pushed for transfers. He was always happy with the players that he had. He always worked with the tools that he had, but he never got along with the fans and got a bit homesick, so that didn't work out. But now with Lampard, we look like we're making that long-term philosophy. Lampard will be there for the long-term. Chelsea fan since joining us in 2001 from West Ham. He's got Petr Cech as well, and the board is a lot closer to the club than it's ever been before. Communication is excellent. So I think Lampard will have time only because it does look like we're building something long-term, and it does look like we're building something that does need the time. So all Lampard can do wrong is just regress. If we dropped out the top four, did some madness like that, yeah, he'll probably be out of a job. But other than that, I think there'll be higher expectations, but I think he'll still have a job regardless of what happens.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually, because you've seen people like bringing in Arteta and then Frank Lampard being another person as well. Just over to you, James. Do you think this is going to be like a generation of where we're seeing more long-term managers and long-term plans kind of filled out? Because of recent times, look at Watford, for example, they've just been getting rid of managers left, right and centre. Is this the time now where you think clubs are going to try and invest in managers for the long term?
I think so. If you look at the contracts that have been given to the last few managers, even ours, Rodgers, 10 million, they're all on huge contracts now, which is probably above a lot of the player wages at some of the clubs. So yes, they're on long-term contracts, and I think because of the current situation as well, that a lot of clubs won't sack managers because they can't afford to, because the compensation payments are going to be so high. It's like paying for a different player. If you take Leicester's one, so Rodgers is on what, nearly 200 grand a week. His compensation payment is probably between 10 and 20 million, which is a lot of money for a manager for a club like us. As we see, the signings that we're trying to go for are not the kind of signings that our fans want. We want to see 30 to 50 million pound signings.
Fair enough, that makes sense. Just back to you, Lewis. Kind of we've seen a lot of Frank Lampard's brought through a lot of the talent that has been in the loan system that everybody's been known as in your loan system for ages now. So you're looking at the likes of Loftus-Cheek, Christensen, James, Mount. Are these players starting to come back into the team even after years' experience, or is it, especially with a player like Loftus-Cheek, is he kind of another player that's just going to go back into the loan system? Because it seems like they were doing really well, and now with all the players you brought in, I don't see how players like them really fit in.
It's a bit of a sticky one, I can't lie, but with Chelsea, it's always been about survival of the fittest, and I always call it that to talk about the competition in the squad, because in title contenders, you need competition like that. You need to have players that shouldn't be on the bench, but are on the bench because there's players playing at that good of a level. And a big problem with Chelsea over the last few seasons is that our depth was just horrendous. If plan A didn't work, we didn't really have a plan B because we had players like Batshuayi or Ross Barkley off the bench. You bring them on, they're not going to do anything. Like, if we're being honest about it. Now we've got players like Mason Mount on the bench, players like Tammy Abraham, Olivier Giroud, players that I think can do something. And even in the case of game time and everything, I think Frank Lampard really likes to rotate. Sorry, that was a key part of him last season. And I always say with Frank Lampard, I'm going to use this as an example as well. 03-04 season when Roman Abramovich first signed for Chelsea, and we were just throwing money everywhere. Everyone said Lampard was going to be the weak link in that midfield, and he ended up shining and became the best player in our club and became one of the club's biggest ever legends. So I think Frank Lampard will understand what players like Mason Mount are feeling, players like Loftus-Cheek, players like Hudson-Odoi. They're going to be feeling like their places are for stake. But it's also good competition. It'll bring out the best out of everyone. You'll know if they're Chelsea quality, because if they're Chelsea quality, they will start the games more regularly. I think a lot of these players will also be around for Chelsea the long term because of how long they've stayed at the club. I know with Loftus-Cheek, I don't think he'll leave the club. I don't think he'll go anywhere other than Chelsea unless we need to get rid of him. I think he'll be here for the long term. But even in the case of players like Loftus-Cheek and Christensen, I think Lampard understands and the fans understand as well. They're not youth players anymore. Hudson-Odoi is 24 now. Christensen's about 24, 23. Loftus-Cheek has been a lot more based on his injuries, and it's been very unlucky for him, which is why he continuously gets more chances. Players like Christensen, though, I think it's more last chance saloon for him. He really needs to try and make an impact for himself this season, or I do think it's going to be it for him. I personally didn't mind us selling him this season regardless, because I didn't really think he hadn't really had an amazing last season, and we haven't seen the same Christensen from 17-18. But it's what this season's going to do. It's going to bring competition. It's going to bring the best out of the players around us. I think players like Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham will thrive under the pressure. It's more players like Christensen and Loftus-Cheek that I'm worried about. But I don't think they're going to go on loan, because I think for Loftus-Cheek, that would still be a massive step back for him. 18-19, he was one of the best players in our team by a mile before we had that stupid friendly where he got injured at. And if he can get back to that sort of form, then definitely keep him, because he's still going to be a huge part of the squad. And if anything, not having regular game time might be good for him, because that keeps him a bit more sparingly. I just want to see him go through one full season without an injury. That's all we need.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. I think that a lot of the players you brought in, like the Barclays and the Drinkwater and stuff, that haven't really hit the same level. Is that something that is Abramovich on the board really worried about, the kind of wages that they're on? Because if they're not really getting the first team football and not really converting the chances, it doesn't seem like they're leaving the door anytime soon.
Yeah, there's a lot of deadwood at this club that we've been trying to get rid of through the summer, and that we're still trying to get rid of. Michy Batshuayi, for first off, he's on like 90k, 100k a week, and he's never once justified those wages for me. He could be going on loan to Crystal Palace again. We've extended his contract for 1 year just because he's already got one more year left on his contract, and we don't want him going away on a free. But we're looking to get rid of him first chance we get. Ross Barkley, I think we're looking to get rid of him too, but no clubs really come in for Ross Barkley. I think it's also a case of the market crashing. We still have very high valuations for these players. Emerson being another example. He's our third choice left back right now, but we have him valued at 25 million. And Inter Milan were interested in him, but as soon as they heard the price tag, they said no. They went for Alexander Kolarov from Roma because it was a cheaper alternative. So that's also why we're still struggling to sell some of these players. But there's a lot of deadwood at this club that we need to get rid of. Emerson, for example, he's on 70k a week wages. Who else? Drinkwater's on 110k a week wages. And we know he's not leaving. He's doing a Winston Bogart. I don't even blame him. Like, we gave him 100k a week. It's our own fault for it. So he's going to sit on them. It just is what it is. Who else? Bakayoko. He's got the same wages as Thiago Silva, if I remember correctly. He's the worst player I've seen in the Chelsea shirt. AC Milan wants him on a 1 year deal with an obligation to buy afterwards. So he's still going to be on our wages for a little bit. Maybe have to give him a 1 year extension as well. But it's hard for a lot of clubs to try and sell their assets. It's half the reason why we're still in for Declan Rice is because West Ham need to sell in order to get more players that David Moyes wants in his squad, but they just can't sell anybody. So we're now thinking, okay, if you lot need to sell players so much, we're still in for Declan Rice. And in that case, maybe Marina can lower the transfer fee a little bit more, because I'm not going to lie, at this point, she could get Declan Rice for 40 million, and I would actually believe it, because the madness she's been doing this season. We got Werner for 47 million when they wanted 60 million for him. Havertz, they wanted 130. We got 70 million taken off it and got him for 62 million plus 8 million add-ons. Pulisic, they wanted 80 million for him. We got him for 56. Even Mendy, the goalkeeper that we're interested in, they wanted 30 million euros. We could be getting him for 18. So Declan Rice, I'm actually low-key confident that we could get him, only because I don't know what Marina's doing, but her negotiation skills are just truly next level. And I think whatever she does, she can persist as long as she wants, but she eventually gets the number that she wants.
That sounds amazing, the amount of money you can get off. I think that's the one thing we've really struggled with, Ant, at the moment, is getting that money, or getting actually players signed all together, isn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously for us, it's a very different situation than Chelsea, because as Lewis said, Chelsea are basically playing career mode at the moment with this transfer window. But for us, we've got to be smart in the market, and I think that's why we brought in Castan, not sort of the most expensive, well-known player, but he's a Belgium international who's been doing really well in Serie A. And it looks like Fofana could be done in the next couple of days. So we're going to have to go with the tactic of bringing in younger players again and developing them instead of buying any established stars.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll have to see how that is. And any updates in terms of, apart from them two, or just generally on the situation about the transfers, James?
I know Brooks has still been mentioned again, which Ant gets excited about every time you mention his name.
I love David Brooks. You can't help it.
20 to
Great
25
player.
million is a good price. Only reservation with that, he's got a glass ankle. So he's been out quite a while with his ankle. Yes, he's coming back. But playing on that left side for us, or playing on the right side so he cuts in on his left foot, he'll get absolutely clattered as Morris used to get clattered. Will he stand up for a full season? I'm not so sure.
We'll have to see about that. But yeah, that's all my questions. Do you have any more questions for Lewis?
One thing that was impressive with Chelsea, Pulisic was amazing when we came back after lockdown. He's surely got to be one of your players that you're going to keep an eye on this season. I think he'll light up the Premier League again.
Definitely. I think the main thing with Christian Pulisic is I really want to see him try and not get injured and try and have a long stretch as well, because he's been very unlucky in his first season. Struggled to break into the team initially, then he got that hat-trick against Burnley and another 2 goals. Really looked like he was starting to stake his claim, then he got another injury and was out for the rest of 2020. Like you said, came back post-lockdown, it was a completely different Christian Pulisic. He was mental. And even with the new signings, it doesn't mean Pulisic is getting benched. I still think in our main starting 11, he still has left wing on lock. And it is going to be a huge season for him. He's got, I don't like saying he's got complete shades of Eden Hazard, but he's got shades of early Eden Hazard when he had a lot more goal threat. He wasn't so focused on the final pass. Eden Hazard in his first season loved the long shot and he loved testing the keeper as well. And he's got little traits of that in him. He's also able to do it on both feet. His change of direction, his ability to cut inside and outside with the ball, and his close control is amazing. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see him this season.
Any questions, Ant? Oh.
Yeah, we've talked about sort of the top 4 of who you think might get that. Who do you think sort of the top 6? Because I think for us, the key thing next year is going to be sort of trying to sustain that top 6. Do you reckon we'll be there or thereabouts, or could you see us dropping down the table?
You lot do have the team for it. And if anything, I think you guys dropping off at the final hurdle might have given you a bit more experience for next season. If you lot are involved in this top 4 race, you might have the experience within you to see it off now and learn from your previous mistakes. Because it wasn't a massive drop-off at the end or anything for you guys. It was a slow, gradual decline for you guys. I think maybe Brendan Rodgers has learned for it. I don't know. This is huge speculation right now. Top 4, I'm not so sure about. I've already said I think with the top 3's on lock between City, Chelsea and Liverpool. 4th place is going to be between, in my opinion, Manchester United. Who else? Tottenham. I think Tottenham are very underrated top 4 contenders because second season Jose always gets the best out of his players, and no one really speaks about Mourinho and Spurs too much. And he likes going under the radar. He likes being the underdogs that no one thinks is going to do any well. So I'd keep an eye out for him as well. Everton, I think it's also very early to say, but their signings they've been huge statements of intent. So they could be in and around it. I don't know, because Everton have had so many false dawns. It could just be another one. We don't even know. They might be in the relegation zone by November. Who knows? Arsenal, maybe. I hate even saying it, but Arteta's a madman. He might actually do something with that club. I hope not, but they could be around. And you guys as well. I'm not saying you guys are going to be out of the top 4 race, but competition is tight. Competition gets harder every season. And you guys are already saying now you're annoyed with the players that haven't been coming into the club. You guys can be lucky in the fact that there's another month left of the transfer window. You guys could still get players in. United didn't look like they were doing anything. Now they got Van der Beek in, and it looks like Sancho might actually be moving. So there still might be something for you guys. Also, we gave you 50 million for Chilwell. That's got to be money for something, isn't it? I don't know where that's going with, because we had to talk about duty free and King Power and everything. You lot might have needed the money for something else. Go on.
I don't think we've got a lot of that 50 million yet, though, because I think it's in instalments.
Oh, that would be typical. That would be so typical, us. I hope not. Okay, that's just thrown that out of the water. Yeah, but no, even with that, you guys still have a good enough squad. Like you were telling me earlier in one of the previous videos we did before, out the back 4 you have, Chilwell was the weakest one out of the lot. So in the grand scheme of things, you haven't lost too much. You still got a lot of your core.
No.
You still got a great squad. You lot can compete for top 4. I've always been worried about Leicester, even in past couple years. Top 6, I got no reason to see why you guys wouldn't be around there. I'll be real. I was speculating bare to try and figure out who's going to be there or not. I think Spurs will be top 6. You guys could be in or around there as well. If United get Sancho, maybe not. Maybe it'll just be a bit too much to ask. But top 7, maybe. Again, at this point now, it depends on Arsenal and Wolves as well. And this is where it just... You see how competitive this season is? It's really hard to tell. But you guys will be around there. That's all I would say.
I'm glad you're being optimistic, because I don't think we are, as to be perfectly honest with you.
Silence afterwards was just like, Arsenal.
I'll give that over to James, because I know James got a lot to say on this, but I don't think we're finishing top 7. I think I've got my predictions probably about 10th this season.
Mine's 12.
Damn.
I think it's difficult. I think top 7's probably where we're probably aiming for. Wolves have done some great business as well. As Lewis said, Everton, great business. You've even got the likes of Newcastle starting to do good business.
Yeah, who they get? They got Callum Wilson. Who's the other one?
They got
Ryan Fraser.
And Aaron's as well, they signed.
They've also got that left back from Norwich as well.
Yeah.
Jamal Lewis from Norwich as well.
Jamal Lewis, that was it. I was say Aaron's.
That was the guy.
So you've got them as well.
2020 is definitely a weird year if Newcastle have made 3 decent signings. That sums it up really.
Mike Ashley just with a giant middle finger to the Newcastle fans. Look, I did something. Shut up now.
Yeah. They can't go to the ground, so I bet you he's probably the happiest person in the world that COVID's still going on.
He probably actually turns up to the games now.
So there's them as well. I think we'll probably. I think Europa will do us this year. As we said earlier, if we hadn't got into Europa, it might have done us a bit better. But I think with the pressure of Europa in October, and our squad depth is completely dreadful at the minute. We've got a great starting 11. If they're all fit, apart from that, I'd start to worry. So I think Europa might cause us some problems with the league. It's whether you just go for the league and just get what you can out of the Europa.
I think because they were planning so much to get Champions League and it just didn't happen. And then that's obviously affected the finances. Then COVID happened, that affected the finances. So, and just over to you, I don't think we're going to really, I don't know about you, but do you think the club are going to take the Europa League that seriously this year? Because the payoff's not worth it. And the fact you're playing Thursday, Sunday, they're going to be concentrated on the league, surely.
You would think so from a financial standpoint, but sort of Brendan Rodgers' ego will be to try and go for everything. So I'm unsure about it, but go back to what you were saying about finances and stuff with the Champions League. We had deals done for players that were going to come to Leicester if we'd got Champions League, like William Carvalho. That was pending Champions League football. So we're really seeing sort of like the negatives of us qualifying for Europa League, which is mad that we're saying it. Like if we said at the start of the season last year that we'll be so down about qualifying for Europa League, It's just sort of how comfortable we should have made it into the Champions League, but we made such a mess up of it. So yeah, it is going to cost us financially and sort of with the squad depth for next year.
It's going to be a weird one because I think with the Leicester perspective as well, it's how do you get that momentum turned around? Because we're just in this position where we just keep sloping down. Hopefully, we're not coming into a squad with Maddison in, with Ricardo in, with Evans in. The question is just kind of, I don't know if you've had experience like this, Lewis, but when the squad's just going down and down, how do you pick up that momentum when our main players really aren't there?
Usually, it always takes one result. I don't know, because we've had that sort of period in 17-18 where the football was just dreadful. Team didn't look like it was making top four. We just drop results here and there. We play like crap one game, play amazing the next. And it all really just depends on one result where you can try and build momentum. The thing I was going to say with Europa League, I think the one thing you lot can relax on is that the Europa League, before you get in deep into it, the competition's really poor. Like, I think with you guys, you could afford to rest a lot of your key players and probably still get a result. I've said many times to you, when it came to Europa League with us, the only tough game we had was the semi-finals against Frankfurt. Everything up until the semi-finals is literally a walk in the park. We could teams made mistakes, or we'd made mistakes against them. They wouldn't capitalize on it, and the golfing class was just so there to see. So I think you guys might be able to manage it initially for the first 2 months. If anything, I was also going to ask, will it even still be Thursday, Sunday? Because the schedule's a mess now because of the whole lockdown and everything. So would it even be Thursday, Sunday, or would it just be a Europa League game and 3-4 days after you got a league match?
I don't know about that. James, do you know about that?
So it's still planned as Thursday, Sunday, but it was all planned that crowds will be back early October, because the Europa League starts in October the 22nd. So if there's not crowds in there, I can see it just be, we play Thursday. As Lewis said, 4 days later, you'll play a Premier League gig, whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday or whenever it is.
I don't think fans are coming back anyway. Like, the rate just keeps going up and up. There's no way they're bringing football fans back. I thought even in 2020, it was a myth trying to do it. They were just trying to rush it too much.
What do you guys think?
I can't see us being back in this season, to be honest. Like, particularly in Leicester, and sort of like, obviously we're one of the worst zones for COVID at the moment. So I can't see it. Can't see us being back in for a while.
Yeah, I think we're going to be one of the teams as well that's going to be massively affected, because I'd like to think we've got quite a good ground and we've got quite a good, like, fans get behind the team quite a bit, but because we've not got that, I think, James, that's going to really hinder us coming into the season as well, right?
Yeah, as we saw in lockdown, we're a team that need that 12th man there. We need them fans behind us to get us going. Every time we went 1-0 down, it was game over. The heads just dropped and it was just all over. Whereas they need us to be there. And I think without us there, it doesn't look good for me, if I'm honest. If we don't get anybody in there till December, January time, then that's almost your season over.
Which is not, this is why we're not as happy, Lewis, with the whole thing that's going on at the moment. So I think first game you've got Brighton away. So are you just hoping to smash them out of the park initially and just run with that? Because I think once you get momentum in that Chelsea team, you're going to be quite unstoppable.
I hope so, but it's like we were saying earlier about the team gelling together. I want to see how they initially play together in their first match. Brighton aren't walkovers either. They got a decent attacking philosophy, and they got a couple good players in there as well. So it is going to be tough, and we still struggled defensively in that friendly match as well. Couple injuries in the game as well. We know Ziyech ain't going to be there. Chilwell isn't going to be there either. So there's going to be a couple of players that we want to see play that won't be playing, but one is going to be there in Havertz. So I'm very interested to see how Havertz plays for Chelsea. We should beat Brighton, but regardless of how good they are, we should still be able to beat them. Liverpool's the next match, so I would rather we beat them before going into potentially 2 L's in 2 weeks. But yeah, Brighton I'm excited for. Last game of the weekend as well, so we got the longest break as well before that. So yeah, we should be able to see off Brighton.
Sounds good. What are your score predictions for that?
There'll be goals. I could still see us not keeping a clean sheet. And Kepa's still in goal anyway, so I wouldn't put it past us. 3-1? 3-1? Yeah, I'd say 3-1. Because I don't think it'll be I don't think it would be a completely tight match, but I think we'll eventually push away from Brighton. So yeah, 3-1.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Just over to you, Andres. We've got West Bromwich Albion for the first time in forever. We know that Vardy loves scoring against West Brom as well. So, what do you think the score result will be for that? Because it's going to be a defining game for our season, I think.
Yeah, I said it on Twitter the other day, but never has a first game been so important for us because it really will set the tone for the season for us. Because if we lose to West Brom, the sort of fall from the end of last season is just going to carry on into this season. But if we can get 3 points in this game, I don't think it really matters how we do it. We could really start to build some momentum and start to build some confidence again. Because at the end of last season, our squad just looked absolutely shot of confidence. So it's just about starting to build that up again. And in pre-season, I know it wasn't the best it's not the best to judge the team off, but like if you take the Blackburn game away from it, there's been some elements where we have looked really decent and stuff. Again, I know it's against lower league opposition, but I think if we can sort of carry that intensity into a game against West Brom, there's no reason why we shouldn't beat them.
Yeah, that's a good point. James, what do you think about the result? Well, the pre-match against West Brom.
So I think the pre-season friendlies have been difficult. We've not had the personnel. They just don't look like they're, well, it looks like they're not gelling together, and they've been playing together for God knows how long. And obviously it's different formation every single game. So it'd be interesting to see who plays. Yes, we brought Castana. Will he play? Where will he play? Nobody knows. Belgium is a right wing back. Will he go right wing back and Justin goes left wing back? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the formation is. Vardy will want to score, obviously. Will he get the ball? I'm not sure. I don't think Maddison's fit yet, which will be a huge gap for us because when he wasn't playing end of last season, there were gaps all over it because of him. And he's that person that has been keeping us ticking over. Tillemans will be there. So it just depends who plays, but I think it might be a 1-1. I can see us scoring, but I can also see them scoring because our defence does not look solid at all. Because obviously with Evans out, got Suncho on his own at the minute because Morgan's not fit either. Yeah,
and then Ricardo's obviously out. James Justin's have a little bit of experience in that left back position. We won't have too much more. But as you see, Lewis, we're not as excited as you for this season to start. We can happily wait another month for our players to get in a better position.
Isn't nice.
Sorry?
No, I'm not looking forward to the season.
No.
Not at all, really. It's just one of those things where it's not really happening. But I'd rather it just the preseason be longer. But it is what it is. We've got to kick off and continue. But yeah, where can they find you, Lewis? And what social medias can they find you on?
Yeah, check me out on my channel, CareFreeLewisG, and also check out our fan channel, Blues Fans TV. It's our Chelsea fans channel. We do fan cams, watch-alongs. Did do matchday vlogs, but obviously not anymore. So if you guys want to check out the old matchday vlogs, they're brilliant scenes and they'll make you feel like you're back at the football again. But yeah, other than that, check out CareFreeLewisG, check out Blues Fans TV, and yeah, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And congrats on the 100K as well. You guys are really glowing place with Blues Fan TV as well.
Yeah, great achievement. Best thing to happen this year. Barely anything good's happened.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get back in the ground soon. Hopefully we'll be able to see you down at the King Power or Chelsea some other time. But yeah, we're not sure when that'll be, but it'll be soon enough. But make sure everybody to like, subscribe to our channel. Make sure to check out Lewis's channel as well. And then we'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.